Hello, I'm Dr. James Bogash, expert in health and longevity and creator of Bogash Life in Balance. And today we're going to talk about pregnancy and how it relates to COVID. And for those of you that have a good enough memory, you would remember that in 2016 there was quite a bit of panic over another virus called Zika virus. And this had everything to do with, we thought it was leading to what's called microencephaly, or a smaller brain in the babies born to pregnant women who were infected with Zika. This led to massive talks about even creating genetically modified mosquitoes that could not carry the virus, to mass eradication, so spraying all kinds of pesticides, which, those don't have problems in pregnancy. But it was all this fear surrounded the Zika virus, and I'm guessing that most of you had no idea what I'm talking about, because we just have a tendency to get excited about things that end up being very little. So Zika is still around. It certainly is had some links to microencephaly, but those numbers are really small enough to not be relevant to most people. So fast forward to COVID, and the initial talk was that we should be hypersensitive and very scared with COVID and pregnancy. And granted, when you're pregnant, you don't want to have any type of infection, whether it's pneumonia, whether it's measles, whether it's, God forbid, tetanus, anything like that, we don't want to have any type of infection. But given how prevalent COVID was, it was just as likely to be, you had a chance of being exposed to or infected with COVID, just like you would with influenza. Now, one of the things to understand is that influenza vaccination during pregnancy, we've got some data on it. Pro, con, not here to discuss that, even though with the H1N1, there was some concerns with pregnancy, and sure enough, we saw some problems like miscarriage and things like that happened with H1N1 vaccination during pregnancy. So we got scared enough with COVID patients, or pregnant patients getting COVID, that there became a strong push to vaccinate people, despite the fact that we had zero data on safety, no data on safety. And but it would be okay to use this vaccine because there's a grave danger in pregnant patients getting COVID. Well, fast forward, and much like everything else we've seen with COVID, that the panic doesn't always translate into what we see in the actual research. So now there was just a recent study looking at a massive study looking at a database that covers 20% of U.S. hospitalizations, so very large number, very large data set. And they looked for people with both positive COVID and a viral pneumonia diagnosis. So these people were positive for COVID, and it was affecting them in a viral, creating a viral pneumonia. And these people were hospitalized. So we've got a big database. These are people who are, arguably already, we've got some concerns where they're going to be. They took 162 pregnant women and compared them to 90, so almost 10,000, 9,815 non-pregnant people with the same COVID viral diagnosis. And so what did they find? How dangerous was it to be pregnant and have COVID at the same time? In hospital death, which obviously, any death, is never a good thing, especially during pregnancy. But they found that the risk was 0.8% in pregnancy, so I believe there were 9 out of that study, and 3.5% in the non-pregnant population. So magnitudes less, a little more than 4 times less risk. If they were in the ICU, the risk of death was 3.5, so kind of scary, challenged population. 3.5% of the pregnant women, 14.9% of the people who were not pregnant. So again, close to 4 times the amount. And then if they were on a ventilator, 8.6% versus 31.6%, really close to that 4 times. So I wouldn't suggest that it's safe to get COVID during pregnancy. Again, we don't want to have any type of viral infection during pregnancy, but the outcomes comparing pregnant women to non-pregnant people with the same infection hospitalized was pretty consistently across the board 4 times worse in the people who were not pregnant. So take that for what it is, but this really puts in light the fact that we really made a push to vaccinate these people for perceived risks and fear on the front end that didn't translate out to real world data when we had enough of it. As always, I'll post a link to this particular study in the description. Make sure you like this video, share it with somebody who you think needs the information, and subscribe to the channel.